one of the things that I wanted to talk about with you today was from grief to guidance and just kind of helping our listeners really begin to feel their way through what evidentiary or like evidence-based mediumship is.
We use the term evidential mediumship.
Evidential. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And so tell me more about that, because I'm a Gemini rising. And so like when I see words, I was just like, oh my goodness, I love this. Evidential.
Oh, and I don't know my astrology signs at all. Evidential mediumship, when I first heard the term, I didn't know what it meant either. But once you understand it, it makes perfect sense. Mediumship is connecting to non-physical beings, especially loved ones who have crossed the veil, who have passed. And it's very easy for all of us to sense a presence of someone, especially someone we know and love. But for a complete stranger who's a medium, to tune into the presence of your loved one and give you verifiable facts about them that they couldn't possibly know, we call that evidence. Evidence that they are still right here. So an evidential medium is one who's trained themselves to seek and get and pass along evidence about the spirit they're tuning into that they couldn't know, so that the person here, we call them the client or the sitter, says, oh my God, how could you know that? That's them. That's them. That's the goal.
Oh, what an incredible, beautiful goal. Because, at Heart and Light Living, which formerly Empowerment Unleashed now, we've spoken with folks that are mediums, that are psychic mediums. And I'll be honest, Suzanne, I've been super intrigued with every conversation, but there's a comfort that comes just in hearing what evidential mediumship is.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's and understandably, grief, right? It throws us, like in our bodies into different places, in our spirit, in our hearts. And to be able to receive that there's a professional that can support in a connection that's going to actually give the opportunity for healing and continued relationship. That's profound, because
it's a game changer. It changed my life because my stepdaughter was killed by lightning in 2006. And I waited until I found a medium who I knew was the real deal and took my husband along. He didn't even know what a medium was, and now he's married to one. So I didn't know I would one day be a medium. And
at the time, you were not a medium. You were a commander in the Navy.
Yeah. And that medium gave us such profound evidence that she was talking to Susan that it changed our life in 1 hour. In 1 hour, rocked our whole worldview. And that's what I aim to do with every connection I make. I tell the spirits, I don't want to do this work if you're not going to give me really good evidence. And they do.
Suzanne, that's beautiful, because so I've shared this multiple times. Our listeners have walked through this with me. In June, I suddenly lost a mentor and a dear, dear friend of mine that was like a big sister. Like one of those beings that's like an everyday in your life presence, how we have those connections, the friends that become family.
Yep.
And it was one of those here today, gone tomorrow, right? Completely unexpected, as what happened with your stepdaughter, which my condolences with that. It is a shocking loss. And for a parent and a child, it defies nature. So my heart, please, I hope you can feel that. So, grief can really, it plays with the mind, as well as the spirit and the body. And so at the eclipse the other day, my friend who transitions, we were like eclipse buddies. And this was my first eclipse, like a full one. So it was a full lunar eclipse in Virgo. And so, the moon was lovely, right? So we would have been in conversation with it, and Brenda loved the moon. And I committed to like going through with the process of rising for it. Like I wasn't going to go outside. I was sad. There were emotions attached to this event, right? It's like the first of in that year that you're processing that grief. And so lo and behold, I kind of have no signs. I got nothing. And I'm like, okay, this is where we are. This is what it is. And I kind of decide, okay, I'm going to proceed with my day. And all of a sudden, I get a text message from Brenda's sister, Kathy, who just uncannily, she sounds exactly like her sister.
Oh, wow.
Which it's very unique. And she texts me and she says, Brenda said to blah, 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 right? And so she was just, and I was like, thank you so much. Like it warmed my heart. But Suzanne, it wasn't enough. I disconnect like the communication with Kathy. I go about my day yet again, and I'm driving in my car, and I'm like, I want to shed this grief because I want to be able to receive like something, because I know that Brenda's like, she's there. Of course she would be there. Like it's the eclipse. And I'm really heaviness in my heart, even just talking to you about it now, right? So sure enough, I'm going to an appointment and there's a detour. And the detour literally, Suzanne, takes me past Brenda's house that I avoid in my neighborhood intentionally because that was the only way that she could probably physically reach me. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, what do you to support people? Because even after I say this to you as a logical thinking person who lives in the space of spiritual awareness, have spiritual teachers, I still question, why can't I access it? It's like we want more, Suzanne.
Oh, well,
right?
It just doesn't open up that quickly for most people, Michele. Why we can't sense most people is because this body acts like a filter. It's programmed to only perceive in normal waking consciousness a certain bandwidth of information that's available to us that comes through as patterns of a certain frequency. But a medium is someone who has taken the time to expand their consciousness to a point where they can perceive higher bandwidths, greater bandwidths, higher frequency. So it's really like learning to change the channel, because our loved ones who have passed are right here in a different state of being, but at a higher channel than we normally tune into. So it's a matter of learning to clear out the lower vibrations that may be blocking us, and grief can get in the way for sure, but we can learn to bypass that. So I teach practices and tools, and just having the awareness of how the connection works is super helpful.
That's beautiful, because we need to be taught, right? Like we need direct instruction around this, for processing grief, as well as understanding our perceptions that might exist beyond what it is that we just perceive, that bandwidth, right?
Yeah.
What do you believe, Suzanne, the mistakes to be that people make sometimes when we're desperate for signs?
Well, and one mistake would be thinking that every appearance of a butterfly or just mild little synchronicities are a sign from a loved one. There's an element of knowing in your heart, this is special, this is unique.
Yes.
A butterfly or birds, what else? What do they call it? Dragonflies, hummingbirds especially, are often used by those in spirit to get messages through to us, to get our attention and let us know they're around. But there's a timing to it, like the timing of you being drawn on that detour to go by Brenda's house. That's very significant. You'd been asking for a sign, so you know in your heart that was meant to be. So one mistake is simply that, just attributing everything to your loved one instead of honoring the sacredness of those truly meaningful signs.
Yes. Yes. And I think sometimes that sensitive period, and obviously there's a range in grief for whatever that sensitive period is because there's no timetable for grieving, right?
Absolutely.
For me, Brenda had transitioned prior to like my birthday. So there's a great awareness of timekeeping, right? Because it's my solar return, right? So one of the things that I was wondering, like, does this, because when I saw it, like, okay, we're going to talk about Evidence Day, which is a beautiful opportunity for listeners. Repeated patterns, Suzanne. Does that represent? Okay.
Oh, well, what happens here? You're probably talking about things like seeing the same number or the
Yes.
same letters over and over again.
Yes.
My understanding of what's happening there is those who are in relationship with you but across the veil will know by being in your energy field, oh, look, it's 11:11 where she is. I'm going to just ping her, like send a little signal.
Yeah.
Look at the clock now. And you happen to look down just then, or you turn on the radio and that song comes on again and again. Why did you turn on the radio just now? Because they merged their thoughts with you. It sounds like your own thought, oh, I think I'll turn the radio on, but you were meant to do it because they put that thought in your head. I have some dear friends there. I talk about their story in my book, Still Right Here, where their son's birthday, I think it was the birthday, 427, came up all the time. It would come up on the clock when it wasn't even 427. And they would look down and there it was. So just understand that our thoughts aren't our own all the time. They're often put there by our loved ones or our guides for a good reason, to let us know we're not alone.
It's beautiful. Suzanne, is that a two-way relationship? Is it for our loved one as well? Like that's transitions as well as for us? Do we both need that?
Once we cross the veil, they're so surrounded by love and so aware that they're in this really more expanded state that feels more like home than this ever did here in physical form, that they don't necessarily need that loving connection. They feel it, they know it, but their soul loves to give us that validation. They love the connection, so they enjoy it absolutely as much as we do.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating to me and so humbling because it's almost like when you're basking, like in the love of being in the presence of what I would call God, creator, source, that your loved one would even send these messages to you.
Oh, you have that eternal connection at the soul level. So there's no reason why they wouldn't continue enjoying that.
Fascinating. Suzanne, you obviously have had a fascinating, what one might call a shift in consciousness and experience. Was it your stepdaughter's transition that brought you to mediumship? Because you were a Naval Commander.
Yeah, it started with 9/11. I was on active duty. I was the aide to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That's the head guy of the whole United States military. And we were up close and personal on that day, flying over Manhattan in the last aircraft in U.S. airspace, and then landing in Washington, where we had just left, but we turned around to come back after the attacks, and going up to our building as it was on fire and seeing all that devastation really caused me to question the deep life questions. Why do people do things that hurt each other? Why do some people die before their full life has been completed? But I didn't find satisfactory answers then. That planted the seeds, though, for that kind of questioning that I never did before. But absolutely, it was Susan's passing that catapulted me on a new mission. I was convinced, seeing her lifeless body, that the spirit that enlivens us is real and can't be killed. Although I had never even thought of that before. I just looked at her body and knew she still existed somehow. And I just made it my new goal to connect with her myself, having no idea that my efforts to do so would open me up to realities upon realities I didn't realize were here, and the ability to connect at all those levels.
First and foremost, ma'am, thank you for your service to this nation.
Yeah, it was an honor to serve at that level. What fun to fly on Air Force One with the president. I mean, talk about career highlight, Yeah, that was great.
Yes, thrilling. But also, I have tears in my eyes as you spoke about 9/11 as a native New Yorker, who that day, obviously so many of us knew my brother was getting ready to walk into the towers for a 9 a.m. meeting. He was in from LA, and just a lot of devastation. So thank you for your service, from the bottom of my heart yet again. Thank you.
But that really instilled in me a sense of service with mediumship and now spiritual teaching in general. I am a medium, but I don't like to be known as only a medium now, because mediumship provided for me this really unexpected path to self-realization, to really coming to know who we all are as souls, how connected we all are. And that's the message that I love to share most of all with people, that there's so much more than these physical bodies and these stories.
Speak to me more about that, spiritual teacher, Suzanne, in terms of the stories that we tell ourselves and discovering our authentic selves. And in the face of grief, I think that there is opportunity almost in the disorientation.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I call somebody's death a wake-up call. We can sit and wring our hands, and in our pain that is very real, say, why? But when you learn that the real question is, what do I do with this pain to honor my loved one? Then you can start to go down this path and start questioning reality. Why do some people die young? Or why do we love so deeply and then only to lose them? Do we really lose them? So I have a book called The Awakened Way, because that's what mediumship can lead to. There are other paths, but lead to this awakening to the deeper essence of all of us. And that book is full of practices, but one of them that's very important is called self-inquiry. And that means you start asking these deep questions instead of just wondering, why do some people die young? Or how do I ever get rid of this pain? You trust that there is some source of wisdom and guidance right here inside of us, that because we're connected to that source, and you ask that source, why am I here? Why do I hurt so much? Is this life all there is? But then you make time to listen.
Oh, yes. Yes. And I would say also we have to trust.
Trust comes when you do start listening and act on what you sense, as long as it's helpful and not harmful.
Yes. How could we distinguish between helpful and harmful, Suzanne?
Well, that's just natural. We know there's that clenching. The body just speaks up right away. And I shouldn't do that. That's the words that we put to that feeling. But maybe that's not the best move. Honor that. There's an openness with something that's helpful. There's no clenching. There's just this knowing, I can trust this. Listen to your body.
I love that. We talk about spiritual, embodiment and embodied wisdom and gut intelligence, right? It's like a really important kind of tenet in the work that I do with folks at Nashville Colon Care. And, obviously, people don't always associate the gut, in terms of the primal brain.
Oh my goodness. And I didn't appreciate it until about a year ago, when my guides showed me I was missing a key piece of our embodied attunement by ignoring the hara, which is the third of three energy centers: the head, the heart, the hara, the three dantians. The hara is the gut. And in mediumship, when we bring that back into the equation, not just the head and the heart, but the hara, that is the center point, the focal point of all the information that comes in. So not only are we grounded, but we use it as a tool to discern. Can I trust this? You feel it in the gut, literally.
Is that, I mean, so if you don't mind, Suzanne, without getting too personal in your own practice of mediumship, how did that grounding in your gut change your work? Because you had obviously been doing this and been on a path.
Oh, right. It just took it to a new level of getting layers of evidence, of being able to just to tune in so clearly to the person that I'm connecting with that their words become my words. I know what they're getting at, and I can share it with people, discerning more information than in the past. It's just a new level of trust and knowing.
Do you share with your clients, Suzanne, how within themselves in their own body, like I'll suggest to clients, when they're trying to make a decision about something, and I'll take it from what do I want to eat tonight, right?
Yeah, exactly.
To am I going to go on that hike, and lay flowers and blah, blah, blah. What? Put your hands on your heart, put your hand and ask.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, what do you advise clients to ascertain discernment like that?
Well, I don't advise my clients in readings anything very often. I just connect them with their loved ones and give them their loved ones.
In your spiritual
my
teacher.
Students, to my students, just exactly what we've been talking about and what you said, practices like that to truly listen to the body by putting your hands on your heart and the hara and asking questions like that directly within.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a book coming out in June 2nd. It's already available, called Always Connected: How to Find Comfort, Clarity, and Direction from the Spirit Within. And the premise of the book is that we naturally, these days, turn to technology when we want an answer. We say, hey, Siri, right? But look at the letters, SIRI. If you add the P and T, like peace and tranquility, right into Siri, it becomes, hey, Spirit. Yeah. So that book is all about making our first go-to, turning within to ask, what's the best thing for me to eat right now? Not just wondering, but asking, that kind of thing. Or can I trust that that presence I felt a few minutes ago was really my mom who passed? Asking within. And you can't ask that to Siri, but for almost anything, we would go within first.
Okay, so to go within. So for the listener out there that might be in such grief that, and you know this because you've been there, listening can be hard sometimes when we're rebuilding trust within ourselves because we've been wiped out.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I have a good solution to that. It's a practice that has helped thousands. I call it the sip of the divine. SIP stands for sit in peace. And it takes away anybody's excuse that I can't meditate, even if you're in grief, because it's just a 3-minute practice. Mm-hmm. And it takes away the complaint that I can't quiet my mind. It's not about quieting the mind. It's about watching how the mind works for 3 minutes. And at the same time, asking to connect with your loved one who you're grieving. You can use this for any purpose, but since our purpose today is talking about grief, so you would say, for instance, me with Susan, I would sit for 3 minutes and say, Susan, I'd like to sense you somehow and get a message from you. And I'm going to sit with my eyes closed and listen and watch images that come in my mind's eye. And anything that's not her, like, am I doing this right? Oh, that's a thought. I notice it and I let it go. Or are my 3 minutes up? Oh, that's a thought. I notice it and I let it go. And I go back to listening. Or, oh, I hurt so badly. I'm in so much grief. Well, I acknowledge that and I let it go. And I go back to looking for my loved one. It's a training and repatterning your neural circuitry so that throughout the day, then you're going to be just pausing, paying attention to your thoughts. And you start to notice how many of them are so unproductive and unhelpful. And you're already getting practice and, well, I'll just let that flow through. I don't block it. I just let it go. and go back to being present. And now your loved ones can get through to you even when you're not doing the sip of the divine.
It's phenomenal because you're just actually creating through pattern, habits, behavior, that opportunity from within you.
Yes.
So you're becoming the receiver, as well as the transmitter because you're actually in peace as you're processing. That's beautiful. That's absolutely exquisite. You know, so many people right now are feeling spiritually disconnected in general.
Sure.
There's a lot of distrust, especially, I can only speak from my perspective as a North American, but across the globe right now. And you, Suzanne, having had the experience and the career that you have, I believe that you have a global perspective as well.
Big time. Yeah.
And I happen to personally observe a world that I actually feel people are coming in to greater spiritual connection.
Yes, there's no doubt. Yeah.
But yet those that might feel a disconnect, what's one thing that they could do?
Recognize that we're not only human. Be willing to play with that idea, to say, what if that's true? And then realize that we are this one expression of the light of consciousness. So it's like our soul is a ray of that one light. So all of us are rays of the same source. That in itself takes you to a shift in awareness, and it helps to understand in simple terms that our human persona is this constricted expression of that beautiful source. I call it joy with a capital J. And the soul is expanded or spacious expression of that one source. And ultimately, all of us are this pure state of being, that source. So when you can just say, what if I step out of the story and look at it from a more expanded view? What can I learn? How can I find some peace? So it's being willing to use another analogy, realize that we're all players, actors in this movie of human beings. And we can step onto the balcony and watch it with more neutrality than getting caught up in it. And that way we can find greater peace and then ways to help bring more peace to each other when we step back on the stage. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. We had Dr. Richard Bandler on talking about neurolinguistic programming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
And one of the things that, some of the work I'll do with clients in terms of like light activation is, they'll step onto the stage, right? Like literally, it could be a theater, it could be whatever it is that stage wants to be, play or performance, but stepping in. And so many of us are feeling like we are stepping in it at this time onto stage. We're stepping into our higher selves.
Yeah.
And then the dichotomy. Do you have, as a spiritual teacher, a response to what's creating? Well,
yeah, it is energy. These are patterns of energy. And there's a real difference between being in a coherent state where what we're sending out is not fragmented. And then you start to identify with the story, the role we're playing, and that is incoherence, chaos, fragmented consciousness, focused here, 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 instead of being centered. So it's really important to understand we are being tossed around by waves of energy, by patterns that we're swimming in this sea of consciousness. So spiritual, better said, energetic hygiene, as I call it in my Awakening Good book, is critical. I sit where I'm right now is my meditation room and where I do readings. And I sit in this chair behind me every day and do practices to balance those streams of energy that are flowing through me. through all of us all the time. And then I do practices to clear those 3 main centers of soul awareness we talked about, the head, the heart, the hara, and the 7 chakras. There are things we can do that may not make sense to our human self. But once you experience personally the difference it makes in how you feel, it's balanced, more centered, more energetic, more clear-headed. It works for grief. It works for just being off balance from the news or from interacting in a relationship with somebody and you just feel out of sorts and you don't know why. You just do these energy practices yourself, and that's called self-healing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's so beautiful, because I was going to take this because, you're not just a medium, right? You're spiritual teaching, and it's really an important lesson right now. And I say this is just a gentle lesson, but geopolitically, the news, what people are twisted up about, turning inside out about, unfortunately, is just further separating them and fragmenting themselves from themselves. First, right? First,
Yeah, it's important to stay informed of what's going on around us so that if we can help, we do. And it's equally important, if not more so, to pay attention to what we're feeding ourselves. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and to balance that with uplifting material, educational material that will help us remember this is not the only world.
Yes.
It's not spiritual bypassing. That's realizing that, yeah, we're here for a reason. Let's deal with this on a practical level. And at the same time, let's take care of our energy field so that it's like putting the oxygen mask on, right? You got to take care of yourself first, then help heal our world if that's what you're called to do.
Yes. Well, and I think that, given your service, you're in a very unique position that neutrality is something, because pure service is what you gave to this nation, not based on any political affiliation.
That's right.
And I really, people need to really hear that right now. We have a group out of Clarksville, so we have a base. We're in Nashville, not far up the road. And one of the things that I love about my military clients is that, they bring with them in their auric field, and what they're sending out to the morphogenic field is to carry on. And at the same time, there is an informed awareness of what is happening in the world, but yet, as you profoundly said, with the balance of what can I do in this now to send out what it is that I can do to help.
Yeah.
Right? With putting my own oxygen mask on first. Like I just want to reiterate that, because we are seeing things right now that are really hard for those empathically, that are paying attention, that have not numbed out. And, we speak of like the spirit of neutrality. How can one acquire kind of that spirit?
Yeah. Oh, again, let's get back to language. It's so important. And anybody who's studied with me, I can ask a whole audience, and I know how many people have studied with me, because I say, what's the phrase we go to when we want to find neutrality? And this chorus comes up, and everybody says together, isn't that interesting?
Yes.
That phrase, I have it on coffee mugs. It just instantly takes you to this place where you're not judging. You're not saying it's good or bad. It's interesting. And in that pause right there, it always does bring a little bit of humor in, but it works for little things and it works for hugely tragic things. That's what's beautiful about isn't that interesting? If you can train yourself to say, isn't that interesting? You haven't made a judgment. Now in that moment, are you going to go to judgment, which takes a side, or are you going to say to spirit, what is the best response right now that's going to honor the souls of all of us? Isn't that interesting? Now, here's a follow-on to that. You then say, this is from a teacher named Ken Keyes, who passed years ago. It's called downgrading your demands to preferences. So we could say, I wish the world were peaceful. I wish these wars weren't going on all over the world. But instead you would say, it's called, I would prefer. I would prefer we not be engaged in wars or anything that's harmful. I would prefer that we all get along. And I'm aware that blah, blah, blah. So I prefer acknowledges this is the reality right now. When you resist reality, you're putting up a wall immediately. So I would prefer, but I recognize this is what's happening. Now, Spirit, what's my next best choice? See?
Yes.
Yeah.
The
So
frame.
isn't that interesting? And I would prefer.
Yes, the frame that we put things in. Isn't that interesting? And I would prefer, one of the suggestions that I'll give is use words that evoke a natural curiosity.
Yeah.
And interest.
Yeah.
So for a while, Suzanne, and you'll appreciate this, but it's a lot different than the work you've done. I was a middle school and high school Montessori educator.
Okay.
And so middle school children are fascinating beings. One day they're one way, the next day they're another way, and they're just trying to learn the world. And one of the favorite phrases of mine, and I went on to do trainings with teachers and unfortunately ended up in administration. That's why I'm not an educator anymore. But nonetheless, that was God's path for me. But I used to say to the children, isn't that interesting?
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Because the last thing you want to do is charge up a middle schooler.
Oh, yeah.
They're little warriors. Like you have to show up. Allowing for the other's autonomy. This is why neutrality is also really important from a respect-based perspective.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you just reminded me a phrase. I love acronyms. Military people are trained in acronyms. I've carried it over to like SIP of the divine, the bless me method. I teach people to connect. But the acronym HEAR, to really hear somebody requires humility, empathy, appreciation, and respect. HEAR. Sometimes when I'm not quite agreeing with maybe something my husband says, I stop, I hear inside me, hear him, and I stop. And I just go back to humility. I don't have to be right? Always. Empathy, appreciation of his point of view, and then respect for the soul right here. If we could do that, if we could really hear each other, imagine how our world would change.
Absolutely. If we could hear each other. And the other thing that I share with folks in accordance with what you're saying is, in addition to hearing, speaking prior to opening one's mouth. So my father, whose father served in the Spanish Civil War and then came and served in World War II and was Purple Heart decorated veteran because he was that kind of guy. And incredible service. He used to always say, use what you have more of, right? So you have 2 ears, you only have 1 mouth, you have 2 eyes, right? So use what you have more of.
Yeah.
But I used to, because I do want to be snarky, again, back to the middle schoolers, I used to say, because they were feeling out communication in very prickly ways. I never realized, actually, until this political climate has existed, quote unquote, how prickly people can really be into adulthood. Similar to working with adolescents, just in terms of defining themselves, changes.
That's where we are as a species. We're in the adolescence of our soul's growth.
That's exactly. We've entered like a new era, right? And we're kind of all teenagers again in many
Moving
ways.
towards adulthood. That's the hopeful part.
That's the hopeful part. And one of the things I used to say, and this was for me as much as it was my students, and I would say this to the children at the time, listen, I am speaking to myself as much as I am speaking to y'all. Is it truthful? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? And is it kind? If it cannot meet those 4 criteria, it need not be spoken.
Nice.
And I could see God loved them. I could see some of them, when we were in community circle, right? And we were sharing things, you could literally smell the smoke burning, right? And then all of a sudden it became, and I'm not kidding, Suzanne, it takes one to know one. So just another me. I have had to practice this because I'm one of those that used to, I would get really annoyed that people would get annoyed by this stuff. What? It's sort of a redundancy. And I was not putting out a great field. And so I was like, oh, I have to apply this to my vibe now.
Yeah.
Is it truthful? Is it helpful? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Not just from the mouth, from the field. And that's like this new level that I think in many ways Source is bringing to our attention with the friction that we're feeling.
Yeah. I've helped to build a whole community. We call it the Awake and Wake community. I do a live podcast every Sunday, and we have over 1,000 people join in live and then more view later. And they're so kind in the comments. I mean, 99%. And when somebody's not kind, the others are kind to that person, this is what builds and radiates out to the world. That's why programs like yours and mine really do make a difference. It's slow, it's growing, but that started from getting back to your topic, grief and mediumship, and led to what will change our world. So it's all connected.
We have a whole team supporting us, right? Of our loved
ones.
Both
sides of the veil.
On both sides of the fence. Yeah. And so it's like, this time that we're in, I believe is just a magical one. And I want to thank you. But before we let you get away, Suzanne, because you've been so generous with us with your time, I want to do, if we could, it's a little lightning round. You will be phenomenal at this because you answer from your heart and from your hara. So you're going to know, as well as your crown is wide open. So literally, this is just, you can give us the short answers, which again, military training, you will do brilliant with this.
No worries.
Okay, my friends, here we go. One myth about mediumship.
That talking to spirits is wrong.
Thank you. One daily practice for clearing ourselves.
Vagus nerve breathing. Breathe in for 4 and out for 6 very slowly, and exhale all that stress and tension and dense energy away.
Thank you, ma'am. One sentence for someone in fresh grief.
Let me get that one straight from spirit. This is not permanent.
Yeah. Let that sink in, y'all. One sentence for the skeptical listener.
Be open-minded and willing to play.
Oh, beautiful. One sentence for the person that might be spiritually numb.
This too shall pass.
Beautiful. And one truth about love that you know, my new friend, without a doubt.
It never dies.
Whew, I'm going to take a breath and breathe that in.
Yeah.
I want to take that in. Thank you. Thank you, Suzanne. This has been deeply grounding. It's been deeply hopeful. and deeply uplifting. Thank you for sharing time and space with us. This has been episode 70 of Heart and Light Living, where you get to come home to you. One of the things, Suzanne, that I would love if you could, because I know we can reach you at SuzanneGiesemann.com. Also, could you tell us your books again, ma'am?
Well, I actually have quite a few. The most recent are Making the Afterlife Connection, Mediumship, and The Awakened Way. The one coming out in June is Always Connected.
Yes. Okay. And it is available now.
It is available for pre-order. Yes.
For pre-order now. Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So dear listeners, breathe all of this in, take this in, know that you are being supported, know that you are being loved, know that you are being cared for. Sorry, I'm taking this in myself from both sides of the fence. Come home to your heart, come home to your light, come home to you. Thank you so much, Suzanne Giesemann, for being with us. Thank you, dear listeners. If you think this can help anybody, y'all, please pass this on, share. Any comments, drop them there for us. We appreciate you, dear ones. Thank you now.
So while you were talking about your friend Brenda, I sensed the presence, and I sensed that pulling an angel card for Brenda was significant, especially around that time when you were thinking of her so clearly.
Okay, so she's giving me tasks, which makes sense. She was a teacher, right? And like a mentor. It was interesting, Suzanne, because before we came on the broadcast, and I mean, no one knows this eclipse, I've just had a little bit like with time and space and just like literally like what I basically know what time it is. And I'm someone that used to be able to tell you the time just by feeling it. So it's like a real evolution for me in a way. And before we were coming on the broadcast, and my child who had been helping me, quote unquote, with IT, my grown child, my mouse was like about to die. And I'm like, oh my God, it's not clicking. And I felt like something on my head, like to the point that I was like, oh God, is there a bug?
Oh, shoot. Are you kidding me? My dear friend Brenda, who crossed the veil, anybody who knows my work knows that when she comes to me, I talk about it like a bug in my hair. That's Brenda's sign to me.
Oh my God, Suzanne, you're going to make me cry happy tears.
Yeah.
So it's Brett. So that was Brenda. So you just answered my question because I was like,
oh yeah, unmistakable. Like this little, and people know the story because I joked that one day I was walking into my RV. I'd been out in nature, and I said, "Oh, Brenda's here," and I went, "Oh, it's a real bug." No, but definitely pull a card. You probably have some kind of oracle cards, right?
Oh, I have a lot of oracle cards. Should I go in my office and get them as they're sitting on her desk after?
Absolutely. Not right now, but really go to your heart and say, Brenda, I know that the card I'm gonna pull is gonna be the perfect one with a message from you. I also have an app called the Awakened Way app, Awakened Way. And it has over 6,000 of the daily messages that I get, fresh one every morning. It's free. And there's a button on there you can push. It's called Ask for Guidance Now. And you can say, Spirit, what message do you have for me now? And you push that button and up comes phenomenally a perfect message.
Okay,
so that's great for people in grief.
Grief. Okay, so this is amazing because, and to you, Suzanne, it's just another day like in your practice. But I have been very avoidant. So I have Brenda's desk, and it sits in my office. And it's just, it means a lot to me. And so I have all of my cards.
Look at that.
And I promise you, I have not been able to pull cards since her passing.
See? She's like, write down cards. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's going to be a really nice way to tune in intuitively and appreciate her.
That's it, because she used to say to me, she's like, Michele, you don't realize how much information you get. And like Brenda was literally like a mentor of mine that pushed me. Like she pushed me to do television. She pushed me to do Oh, God, the podcast.
Yeah, she's a force just like my Brenda. I can tell she's sassy and she's like not going to settle for anything less than all the way, all the way. Yeah.
So, okay. Evidence mediumship. I have to ask you this because now I feel like with the bug story, we're connected.
It's crazy.
This is a good one. So Brenda, she loved cardinals. Our friend Molly, who is the producer of the news that made like me do television, like Molly has transitioned also. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost two of my closest friends way too young. And Molly, Brenda and I believed that she would show up as a cardinal. Okay.
Yeah.
And Brenda had, her company like wouldn't let her go because she was so good at what she did. So she was just trying to get further down the road. So she had returned to Oklahoma and she had cardinals that would sit on her fence every day. And we would talk about the cardinals and, how they would have coffee chats like we used to. And it was just a sweet thing. So a client of mine brings me at Christmas time a magnificent cardinal that she commissioned someone who's a stained glass artist to make for me.
Nice.
And it was just lovely. And I was very moved, but at the same time, and you of course, again, can appreciate this because my goodness, you're in the military. I was in office mode. On the podcast mode, I'm a little bit more open. And so there'll be more emotion because I'm sharing, right? Like that's part of my job. But when people are here to share about themselves, it's not my job to share. And I'm a bit formal about it. So I said to Tracy, thank you so much. I'm so touched, although I know I seem a bit formal, but like I really want to express my gratitude to you. And so like our conversation lingered a bit and I walked her out to her car, to show my gratitude.
Yeah.
And she said to me that she's been speaking with her daughter about astrology. And she said, she told me the other day she's an Aries. I said, oh, like my friend Brenda, who you gave me the cardinal. And so I'm a numbers person, right? So I said, if you don't mind me asking, Tracy, what's your daughter's birthday? The same birthday as Brenda.
Of course it was.
That was 4/16.
Again, I don't know the birthdays, but I have a feeling, I don't know what Brenda was, so I won't go there. But
it was April 16th was my Brenda's birthday. And the fact that we have two Brendas and we're talking about this and just what happened before, I'm thinking that your Brenda is also getting your attention a bit with the bug in the hair. So.
But it's funny that you talk about birds. If we could just have some fun with this.
Yes.
You might notice I got snagged a couple times while you were interviewing me because this little bird came up and was walking along the windowsill right here. That has not happened in all the time I've done podcasts and readings here. And I looked at it and I thought, now who's that? Brenda. Well, I have to tell you, do you have time for me to tell you the trick she pulled off?
Yes.
Okay. So I remember doing a reading in the laboratory at the University of Arizona for consciousness studies with Dr. Gary Schwartz. And he had me doing a reading for one of his students. And I said, your boyfriend here, who's across the veil, is showing me that he sends birds as a sign for you. And she said, yes, he does. I said, in your case, big blackbirds. She said, yes, he does. And I said, this is really interesting. He's showing me that he just merges his consciousness with theirs, and it's like remote control. And he says, the birds have fun. And Dr. Schwartz behind me, who's filming this, says, what did you just say? And I repeated the message. And he said, another medium in a research reading, Suzanne Wilson, said the exact same thing last week, that it's like remote control and the birds have fun. So sometime later, Brenda and my mutual friend here, Lynette, calls me. She says, hey, Suzanne, Brenda's son just reached out to me. He thinks he had a visit from Brenda last night. Can you ask her what happened? So that's all she said. I knew nothing. So I just shifted my consciousness, called on Brenda and said, what's up? Just like that. What's up? What'd you do? And I went back to Lynette and I said, Brenda tells me she crash dived a bird at her son's house.
No.
This is absolutely what happened. Her son heard a thud at the front of the house at 2 a.m, opens the door with a baseball bat, and in flies a bird. Picture Brenda now, right?
Yes.
And the bird flies around the house like crazy, hits the wall, and slides down behind the TV. And he had to usher it out of the house. The bird was okay.
Thank
But
God.
look at that. As far as evidence,
Wow.
a friend says, ask Brenda, was that a sign? He didn't tell me anything. And she tells me I cracked the bird. This to me is validation of what our son experienced. It's validation that our loved ones do use butterflies, birds, other insects to get our attention and say, I'm here.
Yes.
And they also can, of course, get that one-on-one, two-way conversation because they are right here. Brenda's the one that came back to me within hours of her passing and said, Suzanne, I'm right here. Everybody's saying she's gone, standing over my body saying she's gone, but I'm watching them. There's only here in consciousness.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
That's
Suzanne.
great. And your Brenda also, as you were just talking, she showed me some scarf or almost like a tie tied around the neck. And maybe Tracy, there's something between you and Brenda or Tracy. Somebody has a special scarf that she wanted to bring up. Does that ring any bell? I'm not seeing any.
Yeah, she probably wants me to wear my blue medicine scarf that she gave me.
See, there's the connection right there.
Yeah. There's and I have, so she's showing me, she's giving me evidence in real time.
With the scarf, because how many people have a scarf from their friend? I don't have any,
No, she gave me, it's this magnificent from a company that she loved, Karma and Luck. A big shout out to them because they do fabulous. And I'm actually wearing one of her bracelets because Spirit put on my heart to wear it before we started, her own bracelet. But I have a blue medicine Buddha sitting on my phone.
Oh, nice.
And so it was like me kind of acknowledging, because I love the blue Buddha that is on the scarf that you gave me, but you can't really integrate that every day with the things that you're wearing. So I think she's letting me know that the blue scarf also, yeah.
Nice connection. All right. Well, way to go. Both Brendas.
Both Brendas. I'm so curious. Suzanne, it's like, I want to talk to you again because I want to know what your Brenda's birthday is. Okay, Suzanne, can I ask you a question? Since I'm sure that you have a Wikipedia because you were obviously.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
Okay, it's coming?
Yeah.
What's your birthday? Well, you don't have to give.
August 1st.
Leo, my friend. Fierce love. That's why you're a fierce love, a fierce heart. Thank you for your courage, ma'am. Thank you for your service. Thank you for sharing time and space.
You're welcome.
Blessings and love to you, Suzanne.
Okay, that was fun.
Thank you. I'm glad that this came through.
Yeah, that was fun. Fun to play, Brenda. Let me see if I have her. I don't think I have her birthday on my phone anymore, in my calendar. I know Lynette would have it immediately, but I'll let you know.
I'd love to know our Brenda's.
Brenda's birthday. Here it is. Oh my God. Oh, wait. That doesn't make sense. Hang on.
Oh.
Brenda's birthday. Oh, she's a Leo, August 4th.
Oh my God. Okay, you're freaking me out right now, Suzanne, because somebody who is a Leo who died very tragically, somebody else who left my life, birthday was August 4th. He was murdered.
Huh.
And I thought that it could have been, my guess was that on the head was Michael or Brenda, but it felt like Brenda because it was gentle. And sometimes Mike, who is a little bit clumsy in life, who I think is an angel, might be a little clumsy sometimes still, could feel it a little more. And so I was like, but it's August 4th. And as a numbers person, that's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Thank you.
All right.
Peace be with you.
Okay.